everybody on the same page and ideally, hopefully we're going to have listeners from all around the world. Can you give us a little bit of background as to the state of renewables in Canada, which is where your company primarily operates?
Okay, so I am probably going to have a narrow perspective on this because there are so many things that are going on as it is today. So maybe one way to frame this is renewables really started small, like any new technologies back in the early 90s, going up to the 2000s. But what really kicked it off was some of the motivations around policies. And then those policies that were shaped by individuals that wanted to bring these new technologies into the ground as an option for power generation, they really made it happen. And so the early 2000s, mid 2000s, wind kicked off, and very recently solar has been very, very competitive. So the state of technology is optimal from the renewable technology standpoint. Okay. Where we currently stand is that the technology has matured, the industry has gained a lot of experience, and they have matured in terms of executing. So technology has matured, the people have matured, the market policies have matured, but the challenge now is interfacing and integrating all of these maturities, and how do they tie in with how our grid is currently structured. Our grid was built 150 years ago, right? It was not designed for renewables. It was designed for something else. And so the grid got more and more complex over the years for a different set of technologies. And now they have to deal with, and I say they have to deal with because the new technologies are providing new kind of value propositions. So the interface and merger areas are becoming more and more critical. And that is where we are today. We have very mature technology. We have great and competent people in the renewable energy space. We have a goal of a sustainable future. Everybody agrees to it, right? But we also have legacy systems in how that energy is delivered to the consumers. And so adapting that legacy system is going to be the most critical aspect on how we can move forward. And that's where we are today.
Would you say that that's the biggest challenge that the renewable space is facing right now, is how to connect into the grid? And if not, are there other kind of bottlenecks that you see happening right now? And then on the flip side, is that opportunity, the biggest opportunity you see right now is that there's a genuine groundswell of interest in terms of these alternative forms of energy?
So the biggest challenge, I mean, if you look at what's going on in the States, there's a lot of potential for decarbonization. So they're very coal heavy. So there's lots of opportunity for decarbonization, and renewables are hands down the best way to do it. Okay. But the biggest challenge that I'm using the States as an example here, biggest challenge they're now facing is the backlog of projects in the interconnection queue. And basically you have proponents that come up and say, hey, I have this project, dear utility, could you assess and let me know if I can interconnect? The utility takes some time and then assesses all the potential projects that might be developed over that time frame and gives an answer. But by that time, there are other developers that have proposed new projects. So the interconnection queue is now super long. The cost for interconnecting renewables is super high. And so now you have this kind of slowdown of being able to deploy the most efficient generation systems that's out there. So that challenge exists for the US because they're full on decarbonizing. That challenge also exists here because the grid architecture is pretty much the same. And that's why utilities and system operators are now thinking, wait, how do I mitigate the ability to incorporate more renewables? And so storage is becoming a big topic. But again, it's more of a reactive approach that we are seeing in the market rather than a proactive approach. So storage now is being pushed because of the reaction towards the renewables that were deployed. But maybe we should be thinking proactively. What should we be deploying really to solve the needs of the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? So that's some of the challenges we see.
Just a few barriers to overcome.
Just a few.